If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. How's my audio, guys? Because my setup here is a total mess. You have no idea. Let's see. Okay. Well, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. This show is brought to you by pscocoa.com. pscocoa.com. That's Phoebe Sod's chocolate website. You can go there and check out all the fine, silky smooth chocolates that they sell you from. Formerly, it's called the Cocoa Exchange now, but formerly it was known as Dove Chocolate Discoveries. They got everything from brownie mixes to coffee mixes, martini mixes, sauces you can put on your barbecue. You can make a barbecue with this wonderful sauce. Okay, and you can go to Phoebe Sod's website called pscocoa.com, and you can either click on the Shop Now button. It takes you to this beautiful website. You can get sampling menus, all kind of stuff. You can order the chocolate tonight, be in your mailbox by Monday morning. Or you can get into the cocoa business along with Phoebe Sod. You can become a chocolatier if you click the Contact Us button and get into the chocolate business with Phoebe Sod. And I'll even give you a mention here on the show, too, if you sign up with Phoebe Sod. Just a little bonus. Whatever. Who cares, right? All right. Boy. Okay, I got so much notes tonight, we're never going to get to everything. Tomorrow, got a really big shoe. Got Daniel Simone coming on. He's an author. He's wrote a couple of books. One is the Lufthansa heist, behind the $6 million cash haul that shocked the world. Remember the movie Goodfellas? Daniel Simone co-wrote this book, The Lufthansa Heist, with Henry Hill. Henry Hill. Okay. Anyways, he's going to be my guest tomorrow, and he's written a second book that just came out, hot off the presses, The Pierre Hotel Affair, and it's how 8 gentlemen thieves plundered $28 million in the largest jewel heist in history, and it's about the Lucchese family. Very interesting story, and I got some notes because I have some connections with these characters in the Lucchese families. As a matter of fact, the head of the we'll get into that. Monday, I'm taping with Marina Anderson Carradine, David Carradine's widow. And she's going to come on tape with me Monday. We're going to play it during the week. Might go in the member section. We're working that out. I'm also going to be taping with Mike Leach, who is a college football coach with Texas Tech. And he was accused of one of his football players got a concussion, and he told him to get in his closet. But we got the real story on that, the true story. So we're going to have Mike Leach coming on. Got a bunch of people lined up. I got a guy who wrote a book about Charles Manson. We're going to have him coming on. Another couple of bank robbery guys. A guy who was an expert witness, a jury consultant that worked on the Jodi Arias trial. We have him as, get this, the guy Lassie. We have the guy who trained all the Lassies, and who's that other dog? Benji. He trained Lassie and Benji and all those dogs. We have him coming on. Do I have that in my notes? I might have the wrong notes pulled up. Because Marina Carradine, I got enough notes, don't worry. Marina Carradine is also a booking agent. So she said, Donnie Most from Happy Days. Remember him? He's going to be coming on the show. And who's this other one, though? Is the guy who trained Benji and Lassie, all the Lassies. He's up to Lassie number 11. It's kind of a sad story because he lost his rights to using the name Lassie. He has to call him different, something like Hunter or something like that. I forget what it was, but he's no longer to call it Hammer. I think it was. He's no longer allowed to call his dogs Lassie. Isn't that a shame? Okay, let's see. Where are we going to start? Anthony Weiner today. Oh yeah, guess what? These are not my correct notes. I can tell you right now, they're not my right, because I got the times, all the dates and stuff like that. Anthony Weiner got 21 months to 27 months. Okay. Let me try. Yep, that's the same ones I got here. Let's try these over here. That kind of sucks. Yeah. Okay, Anthony Weiner got 21 to 27 months. Pled guilty today. But in this deal that he took, okay, he can still be charged with other crimes, including, and it was written in the stipulation, with tax crimes. So they got some other kind of charges that they're holding over Anthony Weiner's head while he's going to be sentenced to this 21 to 27 years. Now, I didn't catch when they said when he has to turn himself in, surrender himself. But he had to surrender himself today. He had to surrender his passport and his iPhone. He's not allowed to have an iPhone. Thank God for that. By the way, the reason why I talk about this is because I was involved in the original Weinergate case. I did the cell phone forensics in the original story, the original Weinergate, the one that first broke out. I was on that one. I wasn't involved with the Sidney Leathers one at the time. I don't know why, because they didn't need any cell phone forensics. Everybody admitted it, so we didn't need it. But I was involved with the one who was in Las Vegas and stuff like that. And then I was involved in another one, too, that never made the press. So I knew about this guy being involved with little kids for a long time. Now, they're holding, they're giving him 21 to 27 months. But they're holding these other charges over his head. Now, how this works is, why do you make a plea deal when they're holding other charges over your head? You don't. Okay? That's not how it works. So he's cooperating. He's cooperating with the government right now. We don't know what it could be. By the way, too, he's getting more time for having pictures of a naked 15-year-old girl than Jeffrey Epstein got for raping 30 little 15-year-old girls. Okay, which makes you think he's getting a lot of time on this for having these pictures on his phone. This goes on. People don't even get charged with this kind of stuff. So, big deal going on with that. Okay? Keep your eye on Weiner. The Weiner story is not over. All right? Take it from me. Julian Assange. Okay? Sweden dropped the rape charges against Julian Assange. I don't know if you're aware of this. Okay, this just happened today. We've got breaking news all over the place. But the pressure's still on Assange. He can't leave that embassy there because we got Sessions here saying that we wants to prosecute him for all kind of treason and all kind of charges of revealing government secrets and stuff like that. So Assange is still not out of the woods yet, but these rape charges for having sex without a condom in Sweden there, those charges are dropped. That's good news. Joel Lieberman. They're floating the idea of appointing former senator and former vice presidential candidate Joel Lieberman as the FBI director. Okay, some of you may recall that Joel Lieberman was the chairman of the congressional hearings and the congressional investigation that I was involved in, involving the Secret Service misconduct with the prostitutes down in Colombia. So I've talked to Joel Lieberman on the phone, okay, and he would know who I am. He would remember me for sure. I'm positive of that. And his staff at the time would definitely remember me because we had all this big incident too. Back at the time, I used to have an 800 number with a live operator. So people didn't like to go through the operator. Everybody wanted a direct number to reach me. And I would always tell them, no, that's the number. That's the best. Well, what's the best number we can reach you? Well, that's the number. That's the best number to reach me. There's no other number. You call that number and they get a hold of me in 5 minutes. I call you back. That's how it works. And Lieberman's office always wanted another number. Every time, every conversation, it was, what's a better number for us to reach you that we don't have to go through that operator? And I'd say, no, that's the number. And so that one of the times when I'm talking to Lieberman, he says to me, well, I understand we don't have a number for you. I says, you got the number. He says, that's the number that everybody calls. And then they had done some kind of check on me, and they found a phone number that was in my house. And he says, well, what about this other number? Can we reach you at this other number? I says, go ahead, call that number. It's a 702 number. So people, they think it's my hotline. People, you got to, I know what I'm doing with my phone numbers, okay? And don't think you're going to find a secret number for me. You're going to get a hotline or a secret email. You're going to get a hotline to Ed Opperman. It doesn't happen that way. Even vice presidential candidate couldn't get a hold of me. So I let him use the 702 number. But the 702 number forwarded to the 800 number anyways. It went right to the same office. I call that one. That's the hotline. I had a guy in jail once. It was a big case, too. I wish I could tell you about it, but it didn't end too well. And she was in Rikers Island. And she needed a phone number to call me collect on. So I gave her a phone number that was connected to my burglar alarm. It was a special phone line that I had for my if it broke into the house, it would dial out to the central station for the burglar alarm. So I gave her that number, and I was sitting by the phone to wait for her collect call. So she insisted that was my secret hotline number. She would only call that number. She would never call the 800 number. 2 years later, I checked the phone. There was a voicemail on it. There was like 200 messages from this poor woman thinking I was avoiding her because people refuse to call the 800 number. It's just ridiculous. But don't call the 800 number just to annoy me. Okay, I don't need anybody telling me their stories. Okay, I need peace and quiet. I need a lot of peace and quiet, please. And don't email me at 5 o'clock in the morning with nasty emails. That doesn't work out good well for you. Okay. Oh, last week, I kind of blew it. What do we got here? A bunch of notes. George Webb. Last week, I was telling a story about my daughter Victoria. Oh, wait! Before we get to that, 28 days since I've been on the Daniel fast. Okay, I'm still working it out. I'm down to my last belt notch, and my pants are falling down. But I got another 15, 20 pounds to go. I really want to lose a lot of weight. But if you want to join me in the Daniel fast, there's still time. Okay, you could join me in the fast. You look up Daniel fast online. Take some before and after pictures. Write down the recipes of the stuff you ate, your experience in the fast, and I'll include you in a book. Okay. We are making some schedule changes, okay, in the Opperman Report network of radio stations and shows. I'm adding 2 stations coming up, either next week or the week after. So if you want to advertise now, there's a good time to get in, okay? And trust me on this, it's a very good time to get in because I'm also going to be adding an AM/FM station, at least one, either up in Seattle or the one I've always talked about in California. I am absolutely adding one of those within the next 30 days, okay? So if you want to advertise, this is the time to do it because I'm going to give you wholesale rates just to get me on these stations. But we're adding 2 internet stations, one in the UK and another one. Get this. Now, I'm hearing this thing from a lot of people. And open up your ears. I'm hearing from a lot of people in radio that hosts like myself, political hosts that talk about current events and politics, are being asked to make a loyalty pledge. And one version, even that they have to sign a loyalty oath to Donald Trump. Otherwise, they're being asked to end their shows, and people are leaving networks and stations over this because everything's controlled by the right wing. Now, I heard this. It's not happening to any of the stations I'm on right now. If you're listening to me on a station right now, it's not happening to that. But I've been hearing this lately, okay, and I just heard it again today when I'm being picked up by this station. So this is, I don't listen to the local, I don't have a radio in my car. When I got a car, I got a good deal on this car. It didn't come with a radio. Got to throw one in there. So I don't listen to the local AM stations like I used to. And then I would email the hosts and stuff like that. I'm pretty well known around here. And so I don't know what's going on with that. But radio, especially AM talk radio, is controlled by the right wing. So this thing's going around. I got to look into it a little further. So we're moving around the schedule a bit. Tomorrow night after William Ramsey, what's his name? Doug Campbell, the Dallas Action, left the station. But you can find him anyway. He has his own channel on Spreaker called the Dallas Action. It's very easy to find. If anybody needs a link, you email me. I'll send you the link. But we're going to be adding John Barber after William Ramsey. John Barber, you might remember him. He was host of Real People. Remember that show, Real People, with Kathy Lee Crosby, I think it was? Or Kathy Lee Gifford it was. No, Kathy Lee Crosby was with the pretty one. And I think Byron Allen was on there for a while. But anyway, and he was host of the Gong Show, too. He was host of the Gong Show, John Barber. But he was also part of the Jim Garrison investigation into JFK. And he's got a movie coming out, part 2 about JFK. So we're going to have him on Saturday nights. And I think his show is twice a week, so we're probably going to have him on Sundays, too. I'm adding a bunch of shows Sunday. If you want to host a show, get a hold of me. OppermanReport@gmail.com. We're going to have Alan Warren. Remember Alan Warren, the true crime author? He's going to be hosting his own show. We're going to have John Barber. I have a woman who's running for Senate on the Green Party ticket. And I have a medical guy who's going to be coming on, and then Nico House. So Sunday, and I might, just to get the ball rolling on Sunday, do a little hour myself on Sunday, because I gotta come up with a lot of 50-minute shows for another station that's picking me up. Okay, last week I blew the arc of the story. If you notice, my stories on the show here, I start off and I tell you something personal, and then there's a payoff at the end. There's because it is an arc. It starts off at the beginning, and then there's a fill in the middle, and then at the end, the moral of the story. And I was telling you about how Victoria, when she was little, the story about kryptonite, and all that stuff, kryptonite. And the arc of that story was when I told you about the Madeleine McCann case and those authors that we caught making up stuff, denying that they knew about the Podesta sketches, was that the Podesta sketches were their kryptonite. And as soon as they couldn't keep their story straight about the Podesta sketches, and that's why I was talking about kryptonite. So the last week's show didn't make much sense. So you keep an eye out for the arc of the story of what I'm doing here. This is an art form, what I'm doing here. This is no joke. Okay, what's next? Okay, running out of time already. Missing persons cases. People always want to know what it's like to be a private investigator, right? And I even did a show recently with Pierce Redmond where I did an exclusive interview with him that's only available in his Patreon section for Pierce Redmond's Porkin Policy. But I might be adding that to my member section too as well, because it's been up there for a while. And it's hard to describe what it's like to be a private investigator because it's always a little bit different. It could be like an adoption investigation. I just got a great new source where I can look up adoption cases. And if you gave up your kid for adoption or you're an adopted kid, you're looking for your biological parents, that we can locate that now. It's a very, very simple investigation. Another one that's very common is missing person cases. Or another thing is, you got a lot of people contact me in the middle of the night. A loved one, a friend of theirs, someone from church, whatever, just got arrested. How do we get him out of jail? How do we bail him out? We need a lawyer. That kind of thing, too. So a typical phone call, okay, is missing persons case. Someone goes missing for a couple of days, and the family is frantic. They think that right away they're lying somewhere dead in a ditch. My daughter went out on a date, and now she's kidnapped in some guy's apartment, handcuffed to the radiator, and getting gang raped. This is the first things that come to their mind, and they've called all the hospitals, okay, and they call the police department, and the police really don't take these things that serious because they know these people turn up. And then they start calling me. And money's no object. Right away. You gotta find my father, find my daughter. Right. Almost every time, okay, if they're not in the hospital, if they haven't had an accident and they're not in the hospital, they're in jail. They've been arrested and they're in jail. Now, there's a couple little things to this, because sometimes people get arrested and they're in jail. They're arrested as either a John Doe or a Jane Doe because they're drunk and they don't want to give their name. They don't have any ID on them. They lost their purse, and they don't want to give up who they are, and because they're being difficult and they're fighting with the whole jail, and they're sitting in there as a John Doe. Okay, and you can't look it up online. You can't call the jail and find them there, but that's usually where people are. Had a case this week. I had two missing persons cases this week. One was a guy, it was a couple of days, and we found him. He was in jail. The other one was a little more tricky, okay? And this is something you want to keep in mind, too. We were able to find the girl, too. She was 19 years old. She went out on a date with some guy she met online on Tinder. Okay, a Tinder date. And But when she turned up missing, the parents didn't know the name of the guy she went out with. So right away they assumed she's been kidnapped. They're posting posters on Facebook, on Craigslist, all over the place. And I says, listen, calm down. She probably got arrested, you know? So we checked the online, right? Call the jails. They can't find. And they tell me, we know she's not in jail because we made a police report. The police would have told us if she's in jail. That's not true. Okay, those 2 cops who come to your house, they don't have 30 years experience in doing this kind of stuff. They don't even think of this kind of stuff. They don't go check the jails for you. They're just taking down your information and leaving. In this case, as soon as I found out she was 19 years old and she was going out on a date, the first thing that pops up in my head was that she had fake ID on her, and she got arrested under the fake ID. So all we had to do now is find out all the names of her best friends, you know, and I called up a couple of them. They were trying to get a little shady with me. They wouldn't give me information. But I got the names of all her friends, and then we just had to look up all those names in the jail, and we found her in the jail under a fake name. It's very, which is common too, by the way, because kids do go out with fake IDs. They get a DUI, and they show the fake license, okay? All right? 'Cause they're not too bright, you know, or they're passed out, and they got that license in their pocket. You don't want, if you run into that situation, you don't want to bail them out with a bail bondsman under the fake name, which is what people think they're going to do right away. That's the worst thing you could possibly do, because the co-signer for the bail bond, you're on the hook. If you're signing that paperwork, you're on the hook for it. That's defrauding an insurance company, so you don't want to get involved in that at all. So you got to understand, when you got a missing person, it's very likely they're in jail. And because 25%, 1 out of 5 people in this country wind up getting arrested and going to jail one time in their life, okay? And it's not just in the bad neighborhoods. It's people, I know people from church, okay? People you work with, people in your apartment complex. You go to church and you see someone's missing, you know, for 3 months, 6 months, and you see him 6 months later, and say, hey, where you been? You know? And they don't want to say, oh, I had to go to jail. You know, I had a DUI. I got a domestic violence. You know, I had drug charges. You know, they don't want to say that. So they'll tell you something. Oh, my mother was sick. I had to go take care of my mother in another state. You know, so and me, when I hear this, right away I'm thinking, oh, yeah, he's probably in jail. You know, but your average person doesn't put 2 and 2 together. Because you don't think, you're so brainwashed from watching TV, you think that only bad people go to jail. But really, it's all of us. We're all going to, everybody gets in the jackpot sooner or later with the way our system is run. So that's something to keep in mind. You got someone who goes missing, don't panic. They're probably in jail, okay? Check the hospitals too. But most likely they got arrested. They got picked up for a DUI, or they got drunk and got into a fight or something like that, or just got into an argument with a cop. They were getting a ticket and got into an argument. Also, too, keep in mind, too, now if you don't have your paperwork, okay, if you're an undocumented alien in this country, they're picking up these people now. There's a woman right now, they just picked her up. She was pregnant on the way to a gynecologist appointment. She had a broken headlight, got pulled over for that. They're deporting her for a broken headlight. So that stuff's out of control. All right. Hey. All right, let me do the Seth Rich thing, because that's going to be pretty quick. I can get that out of the way real fast. Okay. Now, there was an article came out this week. There's a private investigator named Rod Wheeler, who is a Fox News contributor. And they attributed a report to him. Fox News attributed a report to him that he had proof that there were, some reports had 400,000 emails between Seth Rich and WikiLeaks. Seth Rich, for people who don't know, was a Democratic National Committee, a worker. He worked for the DNC, and he was shot dead. I think in Washington, D.C. It wasn't Washington, D.C. They didn't take his cell phone. They didn't take his wallet. They just shot him in the back. And many people suspect that he was the source of information for WikiLeaks, even though it's been falsely reported that he worked in the IT department and he had access. Trust me on this, okay? There's a lot of false reporting in these little memes and these stories. with the case that I was even more involved in, Sean Lucas, they claimed that he was one of the attorneys in the lawsuit against the DNC, and that he was murdered, and he was one of the attorneys. He was a process server, and I talked to his friends. Okay, I worked on this stuff. Now, I blew that, man. I screwed up my arc again, guys. Okay. The thing is this, and there's no reason for sloppy reporting on this. Okay, when Seth Rich died, an attorney named Jack Berkman, who's also a podcaster and a political lobbyist, he's a right-wing lobbyist. I think he's based out of D.C. Came into contact with the family, and he became, quote unquote, the family's attorney. Then this investigator, Rod Wheeler, became the investigator on the case. Now, I don't know what either one of these two has done. When I tried to book this story, I've been in contact with everybody involved in this, and they're all easy to get a hold of. So there's no reason why there should be sloppy or incorrect reporting on this story, because all these people are easy to get a hold of. Okay? Rod Wheeler is a private investigator in D.C., former police officer, who is a Fox News contributor. Jack Berkman, the attorney for the family, the so-called quote-unquote attorney for the family, is a right-wing lobbyist and a podcaster. I don't know what they've done to investigate this case, because according to the FBI, they haven't even examined the what do you call it, the Seth Rich's laptop. So this idea that there's 400 emails between him and WikiLeaks, this is not evidence that's in the laptop. Okay, the FBI's come out and said they haven't done any kind of forensic examination of that laptop. Rod Wheeler says yes, they need to. Now, he was quoted in this Fox News report as saying that he had a source, a federal source, who told him that they had this information. He was told by another D.C. police that they were told to stand down and not investigate this case. I find all of that to be unconfirmed and uncorroborated. Now, what's happened since this, by the way, this report has been retracted, and Rod Wheeler has come out and said, I do not know anything about this laptop. I have no federal source. I had a conversation with a Fox News reporter, and this is the story that she put out. And then Seth Rich's mother, through a brand new spokesperson, who is, what's this guy's name? His name is Brad Bauman. And he's a Democratic political consultant who is also worked for the Clintons as a crisis management guy. Now, so he just pops into the picture. Now, he's a spokesperson for the mother against the mother's own lawyer and the mother's own investigator. These two that are representing themselves as working for the family. The family had to get this other guy to say, well, they're not telling us anything. They didn't send us information. They're not authorized to speak to the public on my behalf. What I'm telling you guys, okay, is this case right now, as it stands right now, this Seth Rich case right now, is so muddy and so unclear, and is being controlled by opposing political lobbyists and consultants from the right wing to the Democratic, less right wing, from the Democratic Party to the far right wing conservative wingnuts. The way it is being controlled, the truth will never come out of this story. You know what, man? I can do digital forensics, man. We can take that laptop. We can recover everything off that laptop. I can produce a report that could be used in court. Get a hold of me, okay? And I'll help you out here, Mom. But the way things are being controlled right now, the truth is never going to come out. Now, Anybody could find out what I just found out because all of these people are available to talk to you. But I'm seeing people go on the air and tell these stories. Oh, it's just been proven that Seth Rich worked for WikiLeaks because there's and this private investigator said the private investigators retracted all that, and Fox News has retracted all that. And days before these shows are going on the air, and so that story is defunct. Now, what we do know is that WikiLeaks said they offered a $20,000 reward for any information about Seth Rich, saying it's very important that our sources know that they be kept safe and that we look into these things if something happened to them. When this story came out about the PI saying that he had these 400 emails, even though he never did any forensic examination on the laptop, and I don't want to disparage anybody or anything like that, but I'm just everything I'm saying is the facts. WikiLeaks came out and pointed out that this guy Brad Bauman is a DNC hack. Okay, so WikiLeaks is hinting around pretty strongly that Seth Rich was a source of these DNC leaks, these emails. Now, there still could be a Russian element to all this. We don't know, okay? And we're going to be getting into the Russian stuff in the second part of the show. But just to straighten out the Seth Rich stuff like that, okay, keep an eye out. We're going to play a commercial. And we'll be right back after these messages. And now a word from our sponsors. Did you know that 30% of all people on online dating websites and personal ads are either married or in a monogamous relationship? 30%. If you suspect that your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend may be cheating online, go to emailrevealer.com. And our online infidelity investigation. You give us their email address, and we can trace it back to online personal ads, dating sites, and social networks. We can even expand the investigation and find them cheating on escort service sites or even porn sites if they're registered to porn sites and swinger sites. So check out emailrevealer.com if you suspect your spouse is cheating, and check out our online infidelity investigation. William Ramsey is a producer here at the Opperman Report, and he's just come out with a new book, Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow Over Humanity. Now, he just sent me a copy of this book. Oh, boy, it's about 2 inches thick, and there's a chapter on just about everybody in this book that you can imagine. The Beatles, and Jack Parsons, everybody's in here. It's incredible. And I definitely recommend this book. There's a bunch of pictures in here, too, of all these people and different chapters and information. Anton LaVey and people I've never heard of, too. There's a whole bunch in here. JFC Fuller. I don't know who he is. But it's great stuff by our producer here, William Ramsey. So check out Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow Over Humanity. You can find it on Amazon.com, or you could find it in the Opperman Report.com bookstore. We have an urgent bulletin. It seems that the group Strawman is still on the loose. It has been confirmed that Strawman are Canadian, okay, and that authorities are asking people to stay indoors, lock your doors and windows until this group can be dealt with. You could find more information about this group of Canadians, at strawmanmusic.com. You can have your ad played here. Okay, we're looking for sponsors. Okay, in fact, we desperately need sponsors right now to take this show to the next level. So you can have your your ad played here, read live, like I'm doing now, so artfully. Or we can even work up a little jingle for you with some music and stuff like that and play it here. You have no idea how inexpensive it would be to have your ad played on the Opperman Report on 7 stations live Friday night and another 7 stations live on Saturday night, plus replayed every day of the week on different stations, and then archived on YouTube, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and all different kinds of podcasts, Pod This and Podbean, all different kinds of places who archive the show for us. And on those archives, your ad would play indefinitely, forever. You also get a little banner on OppermanReport.com. You get a mention on the air, you get a little interview on the air, and all kinds of fun stuff if you sponsor Opperman Report. We have an opportunity to get this show on a major AM/FM station in California. We've been approved. So if you want to sponsor us into that, so incredibly inexpensive that your ad would be heard by the range covers 5 million people in population where your ad would be broadcast, and all these other stations would be thrown in for free. So really affordable prices to sponsor OppermanReport.com. Get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I am your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman, and the show is brought to you by pscoco.com. pscoco.com, get your silky smooth chocolates there at pscoco.com. Also, you can go into the cocoa business. All right, I've only been doing this radio show for about 4 years now. It'll be 4 years in September. And even that doesn't really count because the show didn't really take off until January. Because I only did it for like a couple of months in September. And sometimes I still get a little snookered, okay? I still fall into this little trap. So I got to watch myself. A lot of times I'm trying to put together a guest or a show or a topic, and I start calling around because I'm trying to book a guest on a thing, right? Something big in the news, right? And you start talking to people close and close. You talk to a lawyer here. You talk to an author there. Some of the principals, you get a hold of the principals, right? And sometimes it could be like an ongoing controversy, an ongoing case. And I said, I don't want to do a show about this. And they trick me. They start telling me, boy, you know all about this. Boy, you're the kind of person that we need on this case. Can we hire you? Right? And I get all excited. I say, oh, boy, yeah, boy, I want to be involved in this. Sure, great. I can write a book about it. And what happens is they bring in, they give a little BS retainer, a couple $100, and bring in on a conference call, to consult, about forensics or something, whatever. And now you got a non-disclosure, and I can't talk about it. Okay, and it's all. So I got to watch my step for that kind of thing. So keep that in mind, okay? And keep in mind, too, that all the stuff I'm talking to you about tonight is stuff I have personal involved with. When I talk about Anthony Weiner, I talk about Joel Lieberman, even, this is all stuff I have firsthand knowledge about. Now, and again, this goes on to this next topic, too, about Trump and his impeachment, his pending impeachment, and obstruction of justice charges. You got to understand, first of all, I take no joy in this whatsoever. I don't like this idea of when the Republicans are out of power, they want to impeach the president. When there's a Democratic president, the Republicans, back and forth, that these both sides of this oligarchy playing this game of impeaching the president. I think under these circumstances, Trump is just so incredibly corrupt and criminal and incompetent that I think this is the first time it's justified. But going back and forth and threatening to impeach Bush and impeach, what difference does that make? Bush, Obama, and Clinton, they're all the same thing. Now, Trump's a different case. The guy's doing some wacky stuff. But I take no joy in seeing President of the United States being impeached. When I was a kid and watching the impeachment hearings or Watergate hearings, it was a dramatic. This was a pivotal time. It was a very important time in my life watching those hearings. I knew something big was going on. It was 1973. I was 10 years old. Now, the first thing you hear supporters who want to defend Trump in this thing is they'll say, well, what about Obama? What about Hillary? What about them? You bring up the crazy stuff Trump is doing this week, the firing Comey, all this, giving secrets to the Russians, all this stuff. What about them? What about them? As a defense investigator, okay, by the way, who has to live with obstruction of justice in the back of my mind all the time. When I was a very, very young investigator working on those big organized crime trials, and you're sitting in a room with all these guys, and they're making jokes about locating jurors and paying off jurors and finding witnesses and, and intimidating witnesses. I was pulled aside by the older investigators, the more seasoned guys, and says, Ed, whatever these guys, don't even joke, don't even laugh, don't even smile when they say these things, because they're all going to prison. All these guys are they're going to die in prison. Every one of these guys, that's how they live their life, okay? And you just joking around and agreeing and going along with it, you're going to find yourself, because they're all being wiretapped. They talk like a bunch of old ladies, gossiping all the time. That's how they all wind up in prison. And the one the FBI is going to go after is you, because you're the one. You're the guy supposed to be legitimate here, and they're going to make an example out of you. So you can't even smile and joke along with them. This is very serious business, obstruction of justice, witness tampering. You got a lot of PIs, the first young guys especially, they start out. And you got a badge, you got a gun. If you're an ex-cop or something like that, go banging on a witness's door. Hey, you want to intimidate that witness. Hey, you're testifying against my client. Bang, 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 bang. It's Detective Opperman showing up, And then right away, this guy's impersonating a police officer. He's waving a badge in my face. He didn't say he wasn't a cop. He didn't identify himself as a private investigator. He said he was a investigator, a detective. And sometimes he said he was a sergeant, So this is something I'm very cognizant of to avoid these kind of problems in my life. And I'm telling you right now, Trump is going down. He has no chance in this thing. So right away, people will say, well, what about the Clintons? What about the Obamas? They did worse stuff. Okay, fine. That's like Carlos later. He gets busted smuggling cocaine. He says, well, what about Pablo Escobar? He sold more than me. And I have clients all the time that will say that kind of, well, what about this other guy? He's doing the same thing. Doesn't matter, okay? Because you're right. The Podestas do the same. The Podestas got deals with the Russians. They got those. They came out. All those hidden bank accounts in Panama and stuff like that. All this stuff is out. Everybody knows it. They're getting away with it. I'm not saying it's a good thing they're getting away with it. They should be in prison too. But they got the hookup. They got the Clinton Foundation. They got all these people in their pockets. They know what they're doing. Trump is incompetent. He's a sloppy con man. He conned his way into this office. He's not going to get away with this. He's not going to be able to pull this off. I am not a supporter of Hillary. I'm not a Democrat. I am not a supporter of Obama. Okay? And by the way, after talking to some people recently, I am more convinced than ever that Trump did use some of my shows about the Clintons as part of his opposition research. And we can get into all of that too in the future. Giuliani knows my name. I'm convinced of it now. Okay. Now, the other thing, too, people want to say is it's the media, it's the Democrats, it's all fake news, it's all fake, it's not really happening. Let me close my eyes and bury my head. Trump University was ruled as a fraud. Trump had to refund 100% of all the money Trump University made. Okay? So the guy is a fraud. That's a fact. Okay? You can say he admitted no wrongdoing. He refunded 100% of the money, the income from that business that he called a university. It wasn't even allowed to be called a university. He's on tape himself for talking about grabbing the pussy. I can grab the pussy to get away with whatever you want. This is something, it's sexual abuse. You know? It's molestation. It's an assault, a physical assault. No, it's a battery. That's what it is. Unwanted touching is a battery. Okay. These are words out of his own mouth. It's not the media. It's not the fake news. It's not the Democrats. That's Trump's own words. He himself, the own words out of his mouth. Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted child molester. He's a great guy. He loves beautiful women just as much as I do. Many on the young side. Oh, he loves his women. Oh, he loves to have a good time. Those are the words out of his own mouth. Flynn himself wants to make a deal, saying, I got a story to tell. I want immunity. He acknowledges he took money from the Russians. He did not register as a foreign agent. Okay? Manafort himself said he had to register as a foreign agent and still has not done so. Kushner himself said he took money from the Russians. Carter Page himself admits that he met with Russian oligarchs and took Russian money. This is not the media saying this. These are the principals in this themselves saying they did this. Trump himself said that when it just came out even more today, he told the Russians, hey, I got rid of Comey, so he won't bother us anymore. That's in a transcript of a conversation with the Russians. Guys, it's not the media saying that. And you can't say, well, the media's making it up, because Trump issued statements saying, yeah, I did say that. I want better relations with the Russians. So who's ever telling you this stuff, that this is all made up by the media, you got to move away from that source of information. Because Trump has admitted that he gave classified information to the Russians. Okay? And he also asked our press not to report that information. It was okay for him to give it to the Russians, but it's not okay for you to know it. Okay? Because he told the press not to report on that stuff. And the press cooperated. So there's your theory about the press is making it all up. Now, by the way, this business of not registering as a foreign agent. Now, remember I had those guests on that were in Libya? The Libyan guests, you know. And people said I was a little harsh with them at the end. I was getting a little rude with them. And they claimed that they had this multi-hundred-million-dollar business with the Libyan government and stuff like that. And I asked them during this interview, look it up, you'll find it. I said, well, did you have to register as a foreign agent? Are you registered as foreign agents? Then they tell me they got this UN and NGO and all that stuff like that. And I said, no, we don't need to register. And I know that's wrong. Because way back in the 80s, I had a friend who he went to West Point here in America. He was an American citizen, and but his family was the ruling family in Guatemala. Okay, and they ran Guatemala down there. Okay, and me and him were going to go into this business. We were going to import flowers from Guatemala because I had part of a florist here in the United States, a piece of a business. And he says to me, but you have to fill out all this paperwork with the government. This is a cash business for me. I'm gonna invest in cash, green dollar bills, bags of cash I'm going to give this guy. And he's telling me I got to fill out all this paperwork with the U.S. government because he's a registered foreign agent. And I said, well, I'm not doing that. See, so I knew, and it was a stack of papers too. This is no joke. And he wasn't playing any games either because you can be convicted for that. It's a crime not to register as a foreign agent. Okay, and if you're not, and you're telling me, they're after you, and they're sneaking up on your house and stuff like that in the middle of the night, but they're not arresting you for being an unregistered foreign agent, I find that hard to believe. When your client and their co-defendants are admitting all this stuff, like Manafort and Flynn and Trump himself are all admitting, it's very hard to put on a defense. Okay? Trump now has a former FBI director, Mueller. Okay, everybody's calling him Mueller. I never heard his name was Mueller back in the old days. I don't want that to change now. His full-time job right now is to investigate Trump and his shenanigans. Trump will never withstand this kind of scrutiny. And I've said this below. There's a screenshot on Facebook. I said Trump is going to end up in prison. Take a screenshot of this. I guarantee it. And I said, well, why would he go to prison, Ed? What has Mr. Trump done wrong? He's always been a sloppy con man. There's a reason why he's hiding his tax returns. He doesn't want us to see them, not because he's embarrassed of something, because there's shenanigans in there. These real estate guys, they know this trick of they set up partnerships. And when you set up a partnership as opposed to a corporation or an LLC, There is no reporting on that partnership bank account to the federal government for as far as tax purposes go. You can do a lot of tax evasion within those partnerships. And this would all come out. Trust me on this, guys. President Mr. Trump they looked it up one time. It's like 4,000 lawsuits. These are 4,000 disgruntled ex-business associates all itching to talk to the FBI about Trump. He's got 2 ex-wives and many ex-girlfriends all itching to talk to the FBI about Trump. Okay? Now, the White House staff, it just came out today that one of these senior-level White House staff are very close to Trump is also a target of the investigation. Now, half of his White House staff are Obama holdovers because Trump hasn't bothered to fill up these positions with his own patronage people. Get his own people in there. He's got no people. All of these people are friendly witnesses to Mueller because they're Obama loyalists and they're Clinton loyalists. And they're surrounding Trump. They're leaking his stuff. His own staff has problems telling the truth. Kellyanne Conway, Spicer, Pence, they've all lied in public. They've all been busted lying. If you lie to a federal investigator, you're in big trouble because that's a felony. That's what Martha Stewart went to prison for lying to a federal investigator. Now, suddenly these guys, okay, we're going to assume that all these three are going to have a huge turn of heart and suddenly start telling the truth. This is how these guys get caught up. Now they all got to hire lawyers because they're all going to be subpoenaed. They're going to have to talk to the FBI. They got to hire lawyers now. The White House has been shut down. It's over. The only thing is, and your Republicans out there, okay, and freedom lovers, you've got to get your act together, okay, because what's going to happen is these Clintons are going to come back in and swoop back in and take over again. And that's even worse than this chaos. Somehow I think this chaos is better than the Clintons getting in and setting up a dynasty for Chelsea. And they'll even bring that kid Danny back. Trump, Bill will admit the kid's his kid, just like to have a dynasty, with another Clinton in there. All of these staffers, right, they're all going to be looking for immunity deals. And let me tell you why, okay? Hey, my God. It's the easiest deal to make. When you go out and hire a lawyer, even if you pay him $500,000, for the lawyer and their defense team, the easiest thing to do is let's cut a deal. You become a witness for the big, rich federal prosecutors, okay? And that's how I get you out of this the easiest, quickest way. And even if you said, no, I want to fight this case. I've got money. I want to be just like John Gotti and fight this all the way to the end of the Supreme Court. 97% of federal defendants lose their case, okay? They got a 97 or 98% prosecution rate. So you're going to lose, okay? It's almost guaranteed. Unless you got a judge in your pocket or you got a juror in your pocket. The judge, your attorney knows this. And they'll even say, well, let me talk to the DA and explore the possibilities. They're negotiating a deal even without telling you. Okay? That's how this stuff works, man. Because it's the road of least resistance. Okay? It's less work. It's easier for them. They have a safe outcome. And you're never going to be able to afford the kind of defense, that the Gambino family can put on. Hey. Now, the last theory that people try and come up with is Ed. And there was a post, a guy frantically on Facebook saying Ed, how can these people you surround yourself with, they're all friends with the New World Order. And if they're against Trump, they want the New World Order because Trump is fighting the New World Order. Okay. Trump has appointed, out of the few people he has appointed, 5 people from Goldman Sachs. He's being advised by Henry Kissinger. The State Department is being run by ExxonMobil. You don't think these people are the New World Order? Who is then? Who do you think are the elites running this planet? Not ExxonMobil? Not Goldman Sachs? Not Henry Kissinger? Who then? Who do you think the deep state is? You know that he just approved a pesticide to be that is proven to cause brain damage in children. Okay? The guy's been friends with Adnan Khashoggi, Iran-Contra, deals with Israel, drug smuggling. This is an open, in-your-face association with Khashoggi. Deals back and forth, selling the boat back and forth. Mar-a-Lago was purchased from Khashoggi. Khashoggi lived at Mar-a-Lago after Trump bought Mar-a-Lago. Friendship with Epstein. Friendship with Dershowitz. How does Dershowitz say he met Epstein? I met him at a party at Evelyn Rothschild's home. You got Trump friends with people with the Rothschilds. Who is the deep state in the New World Order if not the Rothschilds and the Epsteins and the Dershowitzes? Dershowitz, by the way, who totally outed himself this week as Israeli intelligence. This guy is working with Israeli intelligence and probably American intelligence as well. He knows way too much about the goings on and how things work. Totally outed himself this week. This is draining the swamp. Bringing in Goldman Sachs, Kissinger, ExxonMobil to run the government. That's draining the swamp. We're out of time. If you enjoyed tonight's show, please check out the members section at OppermanReport.com. I'm running a special. I got about 10 shows going in there this week. I'm going to be working all week long. If I'm not up all night chasing missing persons or in jail, or waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to nasty emails, people unhappy about the free work I do for them. But check out OppermanReport.com. And that's where we have our member section. I got a special going on, 13 months for $65. You email me at oppermanreport@gmail.com. I'll send you a PayPal request for $65. I'll give you 13 months in the member section. There's videos in there. There's court documents in there. There's a letter in there about how Epstein said he helped found the Clinton Foundation. There's videos of the search warrant of Epstein's mansion. There's stuff in there, the Trump University, all the lawsuit documents that I got directly from the guy that started Court TV. Okay? You know what I mean? There's stuff in there you're not going to get anywhere else, man. You know? Nobody cares. You know? We need a little support here, guys. And I got an opportunity. We can really bump things up to the next level here. If I get a couple of sponsors, and we can get either on KCAA or KTNW up in Northwest Seattle, and I'll give you can get in, guys. And if you're one of the past people contacting me about sponsoring, I'll get you in at a really cheap deal. Get a hold of me quickly. OppermanReport@gmail.com. I want to get this done this month. We need to get moving here. All right, guys. Coming up next is Pierce Redmond. With Porkins Policy. Thank you to all. Oh, brother. Okay. Good night.